In spring training about halfway through out in Goodyear, Arizona. Time for us to head down to Goodyear, Arizona and welcome in the Indians beat reporter for MLB.com, Mandy Bell. Mandy, we appreciate the time, appreciate you joining us. You've been out in Goodyear for a few weeks. Who's really stood out for the Indians now?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me again. Oh, goodness, who stood out so far? Well, of just returning players, I guess semi-returning players, Leonys Martin has been someone who's just been absolutely on fire. I mean, Terry Francona is hesitant to ever say who's been standing out because he doesn't want to focus on averages, he doesn't want to focus on ERAs, and he doesn't want his players focusing on those things because he just wants to see who looks sharp, whether the ball's going in their direction or not. That's up in the air. But he has mentioned multiple times how great Martin looks and how much he's been on fire. And it's incredible to watch. Talking about like a comeback story of the year, this has just been so much fun to watch him and just watch him have fun while doing it. So he's been someone who's been absolutely on fire. Greg Allen is another one who's been really, really hot at the plate right now. And especially with the outfield situation the way it is, him having a great spring right now is only going to benefit him in the long run. Obviously, with left field and right field the way it is, completely undetermined at this point. And then for some of the prospects, Daniel Johnson, Oscar Mercado, and Ernie Clement, those three have been mentioned by Francona, I'd say 10 or 20 times now. And he's really, really liked the way that Ernie Clement plays the game. So it's way more than just can he go up there and go 3 for 3 from the plate. Francona has said the way that he carries himself has made an incredible impression so far, and I could see the future being bright for those three in particular.
Let's talk a little bit about the pitching. The Indians are easing into the rotation as far as getting Kluber and Carrasco and those guys acclimated to pitching in games. Bauer's been doing pretty well, had a rough outing, but what have you seen from the starting pitchers, and what have you heard, more importantly, about the starters?
Well, the three that have gone so far, Clevenger just made his first spring appearance this week, but Bauer, Bieber, and Clevenger, my goodness, they all look so sharp. Clevenger looked outstanding in his last performance. I mean, he had that comebacker right to the mound. The irony was they've been easing him into spring training, and then, of course, in the first batter of the second inning, he has a comebacker straight at him, and everyone's heart stops for a second. He got hit in the glove hand, so he just has like a little bit of a bruise, and he said it'll just take some extra ice and he'll be fine. But they all look so good. Francona was saying earlier this week that Clevenger looks so much stronger this year. And to have him and then have Bieber with a year of experience under his belt, and he's looked so sharp as well, this rotation could be extremely dangerous. Now, Carrasco's supposed to pitch on Sunday, I believe, and we're all sort of guessing that means Kluber could be Monday or mid next week. So once those two go, we can definitely get a feel for the power that could be the starting rotation.
And any word on how that rotation may line up in a perfect world for the Indians going forward into the regular season?
Now, Tito doesn't want to name an opening day starter until he sees Carrasco and Kluber in a spring game, but he sort of hinted at the fact yesterday that it could be Kluber, Bauer, Carrasco, and then we would then assume that Clevenger, Bieber would be 4-5. He wanted to make sure that Bauer early in the season splits between Kluber and Carrasco because Bauer early in the year can go deeper than most guys. He doesn't need that extra time to lengthen himself, and he thought that would be best for his bullpen to use Bauer in between Kluber and Carrasco.
At the lineup as it projects without Francisco Lindor, who's still rehabbing, and just what do you see here, and what do you see as some keys that you look at through this lineup?
Yeah, I mean, in this lineup, given, say, Lindor doesn't make it back in time, big keys for me is going to be Carlos Santana and Leonys Martin. Martin and Santana both have been hot this spring, and they're going to need that going into the regular season, just because when you look at this lineup, there's a lot of young names, especially with Yu Chang sliding in there at shortstop. being able to have Martin and Santana, who've been around the game for so long now, they might need to be a little bit of some leaders offensively to get this team going. Whenever you're missing a big star name like Lindor at the top of your lineup, that can be a little bit different now. You have like Greg Allen out in left field possibly. So you just have some younger names mixed in there. So I think a big key will being able to have Carlos Santana and Leonys Martin both continue their hot springs and carry that into the regular season.
Like if Francisco Lindor is healthy and adding in Hanley Ramirez, a veteran guy, and it looks drastically different, and you have to feel a little bit better about the way it looks with Ramirez in the middle of there, assuming he's healthy and can hit and still has it, and Lindor at the top. That looks a little bit more formidable, I would think.
Yeah, that looks a lot better, and just in the sense of just having veterans in that arena, having some more experience. The Indians need Hanley Ramirez to be able to show this spring that he has pop left in his bat, that being out for almost an entire season is not going to hinder him at all this year. Being able to have him in that lineup adds so much depth. And whenever he pencils in at DH, Santana's then able to move onto the field, which he would much rather do. Having him at first base, and then they want to keep Jake Bauer's bat in the lineup just because of the potential he showed last year. He would then slide into left field. So you add a little bit more depth, a little bit more experience to that lineup, all given and surrounded around the fact that Hanley Ramirez is still able to produce on offense.
Mandy Bell, we appreciate the time. The Indians beat reporter for MLB.com from Goodyear, Arizona. Thanks so much for joining us.